Morning, man. How are you? Are you on mute? I can't hear you.
I don't think we'll ever get used to that. We're good.
I remember a few months ago, people were posting like questions like, what's the one thing from the pandemic you'll remember? And it's like, you're on mute.
Yeah. It should be like on a t-shirt somewhere for sure. What's going on? Up working from home?
Yep. Another
Nice.
month or two, but I think once we get the shot, we'll probably start coming back in a little bit more.
That's good.
Yeah.
So do you have your shot scheduled, or you got your first one or any of that, or no, nothing?
Yeah, I haven't even really looked out yet.
I haven't bothered to look, honestly, myself. Although I'm kind of getting really tired of the masks and it's like you're seeing more people not wearing them, and you're like, oh, they got the shot, right? I know you got to still wear them when you go to places for like laws and guidelines and whatever, but you could tell people are just like being a lot more laxed about it after the shots started coming out. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes for sure.
I'm pretty sure eventually to get on airplanes, it's going to be like mandatory.
I think so, for sure. Yeah, they're already talking. Well, I mean, for internationally, for sure, right? Because other countries not going to let people in. So
yeah.
So, all right, good. People are showing up. I know I was a little late starting the Zoom, so hopefully we'll get people jumping on right now. I think we had about 15 on Tuesday. So.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. A lot of the stuff in this class today is going to be, there's a lot of role play.
Yep. Good.
And script. So we'll see how it goes. I have a few things set up. Should be good.
Awesome. I'll just watch the command training for that Tristan and Jeff do.
Yeah.
You check any of that out?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
It was a good one. They were talking about seller leads, and so like Tristan fired up his Red-X, and pulled up like old expireds, and they showed like how to export the data, put them into your command, tag them as like Red-X or expired or even like NODs or something, right?
Yep.
And they showed how to run Facebook ads targeted to that as a custom audience within command.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he was talking about helping people set up and doing like a YouTube video series on like how to avoid foreclosure for the NODs, or how to sell a house for expireds, or like how to protect yourself if you need to buy another house. It's pretty cool.
It's so funny that all that's coming up because I just resubscribed to Property Radar.
Oh yeah,
I haven't been on that site in so long, but I heard that they're nationwide now. So they used to only just be like the five key states in the West Coast, and now they have the entire United States. I was like, that's cool. And I was running Property Stream, which kind of does some of the same stuff. I don't think they're as good in terms of just like trustee sell if you're tracking any of that, because right now I'm doing some refinances and obviously going to be looking to shift into this into flipping pretty soon. And I did one last year, so I want to definitely do some more coming up this year. We'll see what happens. I know it's one of those markets, but I think there's some opportunities showing up. We just got to be ready for it for when the time comes.
I agree.
Yep. But Property Radar seems to be pretty legit. The guy that I got my last fourplex from, all he does is run Property Radar, targets NODs, has a call center out of Mexico that's just calling these guys, and he knows they're lowballing, but he's giving them an out, and he's getting deals. I mean, it was remarkable. I paid quite a bit for this property. He paid almost half of that, and I still had upside after the purchase. So I'm like, I don't know how he's getting it done, but I'm communicating with him to just kind of learn a little bit more of what his system is. But he's a full-on investor.
That's
been
cool.
doing it for a while. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Looks like we're gonna get started here. We've got some people in here.
Let you take it away.
Cool. Thanks. What's going on, everybody? Bianca, Brendan,
Hey there, how's it going?
what's going on? How's it going, Craig? Great to have you back. Jennifer,
Good morning.
good morning. How you guys doing today?
Awesome.
Good, good. Hey, so we're gonna get started, but before we do, just wanted to, ask you guys what's been going on in your business. I'd like to get a little related to everybody before we get started, just to get a feel of what's happening out there for you guys, see if anything I can help you with. Has anybody got anything they'd like to bring up, or any good, bad, ugly, anything that's just kind of happening that they'd like to share?
I've got a question, Eddie. Have you heard anything about open houses being allowed officially? I was driving into the office the other day and I saw that Century 21 has its modified open houses, and they're sidestepping some of the rules, and that's a huge unfair advantage that they've got over us right now. And I wanted to see if things are going to be changing.
I'm pretty sure things will eventually be changing. I haven't personally heard anything yet. Nick, I don't know if you're still on or not. Have you heard anything about open houses?
Not really. I get questions about that and door knocking every day. So, I mean, what they're doing is like they're what I can't remember, non-traditional open houses where basically they're camping out and taking appointments right there at the property. But their signs still say open house, and the car leadership, which is ultra conservative for real estate, is basically saying that is misleading to consumers. And I know that broker for 20 years, and we've spoken numerous times, and she's constantly trying to convince me that what they're doing is totally legit. And I'm like, I guess it can be. I don't know if it's in accordance with the public health order and the for the good of people. I don't know that it's the right thing per se, but if that's the way they want to play it, they're welcome to do so. So I have a call tomorrow with our CAR leadership. I know we're projected to potentially move into the next tier of orange, which should open things back up even more. And we're telling them constantly, look, if people can go to Disneyland, we should be able to do an open house. If bars can reopen in the orange tier, certainly we should be able to knock on somebody's door, safely. So the leadership is pushing for modifications. So hopefully I'll hear something tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully, because that makes sense. Because if somebody doesn't want to engage and you knock on their door, I mean, they're just not going to open the door, and that's fine, right? Versus, like you're saying, like being shoulder to shoulder at a bar, or I don't even want to start with Disneyland. I mean, hopefully things do open up sooner than later. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, hopefully we'll get there. I think soon enough we will. I've seen some of those Century 21 signs as well. I kind of question it, and I think a lot of it comes down, like, if you want to play around some of the guidelines and the rules, you kind of do that at your own risk. Who knows what comes out of that, right? Or what some of the ramifications are. So for now, I'm kind of just not chancing it myself, or anybody here in the office that I know of is they're not doing any of that at the moment. But I think that if I've seen anything, it's been more door knocking than I have open houses. But yeah, I don't know if that helps any.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions? No? Oh, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Whoops. What am I sharing? Do you guys see the Ignite?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So today we're going to be, we're running, obviously here we're on like session 8. We're talking about finding seller leads, right? And there's obviously, numerous ways of doing that. I'm going to cover a few things, but some of you are out in the field right now. What are some of the ways you're finding some seller leads right now? Is anybody looking for seller leads right now? Well, if nobody's got anything to share, I'll share what I'm doing. I've been pivoting a little bit in my business, right? I'm productivity coach here, but I'm still in production. I'll take some, transactions and the opportunity to help people here and there. And one of the things that I'm implementing in my system right now is Street Text. Street Text is a platform. It's kind of cool. Speaking to door knocking, it's almost like you're digitally door knocking. Combining it with BonBon allows me to essentially use them to target Facebook seller listing leads, not so much buyers, even though there is buyer options in there. And then building off some campaigns that they have that are pretty cool and that are pretty set up. And why I like that for me is because I'm at the point of my business where I need to, leverage a little bit of marketing for my time. And when I can use a platform like Street Text, they can help me set things up. They A/B test a lot of things, meaning they'll test different things that get good responses. They have a coach that's there with you to kind of coach you in the process. And they got their own campaigns, right? And if you want to start a campaign, maybe let's say you have already a CRM, which is great, you can just use a partial or just the beginning lead capture portion of their campaign. And then you can follow that in or follow through with whatever campaign you have in your current CRM. But what's cool is they got a couple things in there, and combining it with BonBon, you can make pre-made videos of yourself welcoming them and whatever else, and the lead or whoever, and it asks some pretty good questions in terms of how to get those leads to respond. So I'm going to give that a shot, but that's one way that I'm shifting into getting seller listings. Of course, I'm not just going to depend on that, but it's something that I'm looking to supplement my business with. And I like the whole BonBon thing because I can send people from, smart plans or have, different campaigns from whatever CRMs you're using. But right now, the face-to-face really helps, and it helps you get related. And with BonBon, you can create a welcoming video in the email as soon as they, put some information in, right, through Street Text. You can reciprocate with some videos. And I think to me, that's kind of cool. I like that. So I'm going for that kind of thing right now. And of course, Sphere has always been my biggest thing in terms of getting, seller leads or getting sellers, period, right? And a lot of it was from working enough buyers that they eventually become sellers as well. So with that said, does that open up anything for anyone where they can share where they're getting some of their listings? If anybody is, or maybe if you're on a team or no, let's say you're not getting listings. Let's say, you're following people in your market center. How are they getting listings? We can hang out here all day, guys. Okay, I'm not gonna. Who's got?
Quiet bunch today, huh?
I know. The reason why I'm asking is because, we need, we're in a seller leads course today, right? And our business is to go out there and get listings. So what are some, I shared a couple things. I would like to hear from a few of you and where you think you could get a seller right now.
Hey, Eddie. Andrea here. I can't speak for myself because I don't have a listing here in LA, but I do work for a team in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And we've been getting a lot of our seller leads from our newsletter farm. So we've been sending newsletters for years. So it's a long game, but now these people who are older demographic, I could say, they're ready to move on and retire or downsize, or, this pandemic gave them an excuse to finally move to where they want to be, which is more space, more land. And then there's also a good chunk of leads from referrals and our reviews.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing that. And that's a key point right there. I think that direct mail has made like the ultimate comeback. I know not that long ago, people were like, who's sending direct mail? Or, like, why would you spend the money on that? And the reality is direct mail, after open houses and door knocking was taken from us, became kind of like this new, it's not new at all actually, but it just kind of revamped itself, or like took its place again in terms of just like a legitimate way of really getting results in your business. Of course, it takes time and it takes, consistency, but it's one of those things that does press forward in terms of generating business. I have a plan that I'm looking to work myself that I think I shared with Nick a few times. But specifically targeting multi-units through postcards, because postcards or direct mail, I think, go directly to the owners, right? Not necessarily just to the property. And once you can populate that information and actually have key indicators or items of value on those, not just like, hey, we just sold this in this neighborhood. But, for me, multi-units, that would be like, what is a 2-bedroom get you in 90808 Long Beach versus, a 1-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom, right? And that's something maybe multi-unit owners or portfolio owners would be interested in knowing, because there's value in there. They want to know. They might be living in a whole other state. They're relying on their, on their property management company, and they're getting this card that's got these different zip codes in Long Beach broken down by bedroom count and what that's each getting in each zip code. And I think that starts to, provide value, because they're like, hey, why are my rents, XYZ when this is where they could be? And it leads people to kind of hold on to things like that, because they know that if they ever want to reach out to a local expert, they got this guy who's, sending them these, these cool postcards that actually provide a value to them. So that's another key thing. Like, you got to make sure whatever you're putting in direct mail or newsletter or postcards, that, there's enough value in there for people to want to hang on to those things. So that's just like another way. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. I know we've kind of got started already, but let's go ahead to the next page here. So we obviously look at what successful people do every day. You guys see the slide every class, and we're looking to lead generate for buyers and sellers. And our little timeline is understanding the motivation, right? So understand motivation, qualify and convert leads, convert seller leads, pre-qualify sellers. And then obviously, going into our daily success habits, which we'll do a little bit of today. We'll do some scripting and stuff like that, and then get moving. I'm sure you guys know about this. If you don't, it's the compliance do not call under federal law. Sellers and telemarketers, including real estate agents, are prohibited from calling consumers listed under the Federal Trade Commission's do not call registry. So if you guys are calling people, great. Just make sure that if they're on the do not call list, don't call them. The registry is hosted on a dedicated website. Your market center should subscribe to the registry and provide you with login credentials. If you guys need that, note that any violation of federal law or any kind of telemarketing without access to the registry is something to look out for. And then, really check before you call. I know that if you're subscribing to Mojo or subscribing to Redix or anything like that, they kind of do some of that stuff for you, honestly. So those registries kind of protect you, right? The cool thing about those same registries though too is they might be able to populate 3 or 4 related numbers for you for that one person. So more likely than not, you might find one that you can call, right? And update your lists regularly and honor the customer's requests. There's a lot of people getting fined out there, so just be courteous. I know some people sometimes can get pretty angry out there on the phones and say some things, and just best thing to do is just keep it cool and just move on. All right, so we talked a little bit about finding seller leads, right? And here in our next slide, we're going to discuss that your database is one of the key places to do that, right? So leveraging your database is ultimately a great way to build your entire business, period, whether it's buyers, whether it's sellers, whether, you know, you get referrals through having a solid system attached to your database, or you just being consistently communicating with your database. I think, you know, if it's one area that you always got to be working on, if you feel like that there's something that's missing for you in your day, I know that time sometimes feels like it's not available, but I'll tell you this: if you start getting purposeful with your calendar and you actually feed your database and you work your database every day, you will produce business from it, because these are people that already know you, they like you, they trust you, so they want to hear from you, right? And the more you communicate with them, the more likely you'll be able to position yourself to gain more business through it. All right, so let's see what this is here. Okay, so you guys know what the number one job of a real estate agent, right? And that's to lead generate, right? And that's the other part. If you're lead generating, or, you know, some people might just say, hey, I got to lead generate. And to them, that's just 3 hours of hitting the phone, right? But throughout the years, and even doing enough of these classes, I learned your lead gen model can be a few things. You could do 1 hour your database, 1 hour, you know, or 2 hours hitting the phones, right? So you can change that up. Maybe you could put 30 minutes in there for like signing postcards, right? Not postcards, but yeah, cards that you can mail, right? Handwritten notes and stuff like that. So whatever that is for you, identify a system that works, that's repeatable, duplicatable, that you can do every time. Just make sure that whatever you're doing in lead gen, that your database is involved in it all the time. Is there any questions around that? Yes, no? All right. So your daily 10-4, right? Essentially that's, you know, your contacts, your handwritten notes, your 10 conversations. So, you know, doing your daily 10-4 is a huge one. That's essentially, you know, what I kind of just broke down for you guys, but, you know, it's a system, right? Just make sure you got something that's working for you around that. And then the last piece in here shows open houses, which obviously isn't available for us right now. So we'll get there. But in the meantime, we discussed a couple other options that you might have, right? Whether it's online or, which honestly, online still helps in a lot of ways, because you don't have to always pay for things online, right? So maybe I shared that I'm using StreetText and it's a paid service to help me set up my online lead gen, and it's purposeful in that way. But there's a lot of people leveraging social media to get, you know, to get business and drum up business just from, you know, being active, demonstrating they're active in the market, commenting, being purposeful in their comments and their likes, and showing things like that. So just put that out there and you'll get calls. I got a buddy who started actually in the Bay Area, started flipping and buying houses and stuff like that. And he started a whole separate page just to like start documenting some of the work he's doing, because he was on this, you know, investor thread that told him to do that. And he's been referring me business down here because people are asking him, right? Like, hey, like, what are you doing? How's it going? He's not even an agent, he's an investor, right? But because he's demonstrating this is what he's doing in real estate, people come to him asking him for questions, right? So think about that, you know, like, what are you doing right now on social media for you to be able to actually, you know, generate the conversation? Because that's all we want to get to, is just sparking the conversation and talking to people who are thinking about buying or selling. And then last, but of course not least, referral business. I was trained early on in my career not to ever leave any appointment without asking for at least 3 referrals. Now, that being said, where I first started, it was a buyer's office, and they told us, you know, go after buyers. They weren't so heavy on the listings or wanting us to pursue them as much. And I found that, you know, effective, especially working with buyers. If you can help someone find a path, because most buyers don't think that they can that they can actually buy, right? And that's the biggest misconception. So when you can articulate or show them based on a few things that they bring, and you get them to sit down with the lender and go over their, go over their needs analysis and whatever else, and you show them that they can buy, that leaves people pretty enlightened. That leaves them feeling like, wow, I thought I was definitely, out of the conversation, but now that you say that, that does open up some opportunities for me. So what does that look like, right? And that does start to convert, starts converting into more business. And we would get 2 to 3 names from every appointment, right? And not all of them obviously would be ready, but that's 2 or 3 names that we're able to call and reference whoever gave us those, that contact. And because we were able to connect and, that relationship between the client and the client's referrals, we were able to actually get a higher conversion rate and getting people to show up. Why is that important with buyers? Because buyers become sellers, right? But even with listings, don't you think that after you do an exceptional job, right, like listing a home, and you've netted people, especially in this market, probably a number that they never thought that they would get out of their home in such a short period of time, that they probably would be pretty excited about helping you grow your business? I think so. And when you can just ask for the referrals, you'll be surprised in what you can gain. And again, why referrals are great is because you're able to bridge the relationship with the person on the phone with the person that you just helped, right? They're walking, living proof that you do an exceptional job in what you do in your field. And if that they ever express to your client at one point or another that they were thinking about buying or selling at this point, then, there's no better way to jump in and intercept that relationship and provide your service to that person, right? You have someone that you just completed a transaction with, and that works, right? It really does cement things a little faster versus it being completely cold. They don't know you, and then you working it. So, which you always have to do anyway, but again, the referral really breaks the ice. So what are you guys hearing from what I'm telling you guys? Did you guys think that we would be talking more about database and referrals for seller leads over maybe a bunch of other things? Right? Oftentimes you might think, oh, let me call expireds and FSBOs, which at the end of the day, that works too, right? But these are the areas here that can really get things moving for you. So don't skip out on them. All right. So on our timeline here, we're going to be going over qualifying and converting seller leads. So as we go into that, there's always questions. I mean, we've been using this format forever, right? The who, what, where, why, when, and how. And there's a couple things in there. And, for the sake of participation, who would like to go over the first 2 lines, who and what? Can somebody just maybe go ahead and role play those questions?
You mean ask you or you ask me?
We could do it that way, or we could just, just state it. We don't have to do that. You just state the question.
Yeah, I live in Long Beach. I'm a real estate agent. I like to be outdoors and near the beach.
Okay,
That's my
so I appreciate that. So what I was actually saying, so here it says, get the details right to add to your database. If you would, right, please tell me a little bit about your family, your job, life, etc. Right? So you express that you're, in Long Beach and all that good stuff. So we're identifying the who, right? And then as we move forward in the conversation, we're going to look at the what, right? Assess their wants and needs, right? What are you looking for? What do you want to do? So this is again, another basic format for you to guide a conversation, right? So what are you looking for? Who was that was speaking? Was that you, Craig?
Yes.
Okay. So Craig, what are you looking for?
I want to be near my grandkids. I want to downsize. I want to be near the water.
Okay, so I hear you saying you want to be near your grandkids. You want to downsize, you want to be near the water. Awesome. And where would you like to buy? I know you're in Long Beach. Are you just looking to get closer to the water in Long Beach, or are there other areas that you're looking at?
I like Seal Beach. I like Huntington Beach. I don't know if
Got
I
it.
can afford those places, but yeah.
So Seal Beach and Huntington Beach would be ideal. Awesome. And so why else are you moving? I get that you want to be closer to the water, near your grandkids, closer to the beach and all that. And you want to downsize, but why else? What else is, are you moving?
I could have a better retirement maybe if I pocketed some equity.
Awesome.
Since the
So-
market's hot, I could take advantage of that maybe. I don't know.
Right. So what I hear you saying is right now you can actually move into those neighborhoods and potentially be a lot more affordable considering the equity that you're moving.
Yeah, if it's a downsize, even more so. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And what would you like to do this, Craig?
Well, the market isn't going to be like this forever, so I'm thinking 6 months or less.
6 months or less. Got it. Okay. And how do you plan on getting this done?
I need a good agent.
You need a good agent, right? Well, I'm here to help you. So no worries. I got you covered there. So, I mean, just asking that, we just kind of threw it in the air, but it flows, right? Kind of just the conversation didn't feel like it was strained at all. Just ask some questions and I got to some real motivation, right? And I get the whole equity thing, but I got the grandkids and downsizing and moving closer to the water, was really some of the things. Oftentimes, right off the bat, you'll get people that give you like, oh, I just need the money, right? Or it's very surface stuff. But when you start getting to the true motivation, things like moving closer to other family members or spending more time with them, typically you get to that question going like 3 questions deep on motivation. So you want to keep that in mind. Like, I like to use what else or tell me more. Those are kind of my little go-tos when I get to like motivation, right? And as you see here, we got to motivation after the 3rd question, right? And that's where you want to go deep. And then once you really get that motivation, that's what you're going to have to hang on to when you actually get to the dining table when you're ready to sign the contract, or they start kind of getting cold feet or are unsure, right? Because some people are just uneasy about the process, and that's normal. Our job is to make them feel comfortable and to remind them of their motivation, because that motivation is what we got to reconnect them to when things start to get disconnected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in the times that I've been buying and selling, I wanted to jump into the process a lot, because the more information I provided, the less time would be wasted and just a shorter line to finding that right house.
Absolutely. So you when you ask the right questions, you're going to be able to find not just their motivation, you're going to be able to put in the solutions to their problems, if there are any, and you're going to be able to position yourself to find out if you're working with a motivated seller or not. Because let's face it, you guys are going to follow up and talk with the seller who's ready to sell today versus someone who's ready to sell in 4 or 5 months from now, or 6 months, right? So how do you know that? And it's by asking good questions. Great. Thanks for sharing and jumping in on me with me on that one. So seller categories, right? We got some A, B's, and C's. A, B's, and C's are always used in many ways in terms of our databases and in real estate. And this is just another way, right? So over here it says you got your A, which is you're able, ready, willing to, do business in 0 to 14 days, right? And with that being said, from asking the right questions and identifying that, you want to do daily follow-up to secure those appointments, along with a bunch of other things. But that's a daily follow-up situation, right? And then if they're a B who are looking to do business in 15 to 16 days, you want to put them on some, you definitely want to put them in your database and call every 2 to 3 days or at least once a week. Okay. And then if they're C, and that's 61 days or more, you want to put them in a database and call them monthly, right? So you want to just kind of check in with these people. And the idea here is to stack your pipeline. Okay. What would it look like in your business if you had 10 A's right now, 20 B's, and 80 C's? Right? You're kind of starting to build what we call a predictable business at that point, right? And the point of this, of lead generating, and why you never stop lead generating and you never stop following up with sellers, is because they're eventually going to be a seller. And just because that business isn't going to be today business doesn't mean it's not going to be tomorrow or next month or 2 months or even next year, right? The idea here is what do you have in place to bulletproof or make sure that you're casting a wide enough net that nobody falls through the cracks. And that's why your database is so important, to create that for you to create that net, and also for you to work it, right? And what I mean by working is actually making calls, whether these people are 6 months out, make sure you're at least touching them on the phone, but use your smart plans, use your tools to make sure that nobody's kind of missing any type of information or that they're falling through the cracks. Because I'll tell you, this happens to a lot of agents, especially those that are newer in the business. They'll go ahead and just write things on paper, and guess what happens? It gets lost, right? It goes missing, and then you go a couple years doing that until you finally realize, wow, maybe I should use a CRM. And here's the thing, guys, right now, CRMs, I mean, with Keller Williams, we get one, right? Which is great. Some companies don't even have their own CRMs, right? So if your company has one, great. If not, use something that you can grow with, right? Something that's cost effective and makes sense. I mean, I think our associations give us a free version of Lines Desk, if that's still, if they still do that or not. So make sure you're utilizing the CRM, and your phone is great, right? But it's really not the CRM we're talking about here. It's not going to have a smart plan, or it's not going to have a campaign. It's not going to have tools that's going to help you stay in contact with those listings that you're going to potentially could be pulling in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months from now, right? So just keep that in mind. So let me see what this says here. Sometimes I have to reground myself to the material. Yeah, so yeah, this just pretty much says, you want to secure them for your pipelines, and just, saying here you could use smart plans and command. For those of you that are using it, or neighborhood landing pages. So yeah, okay, cool. We pretty much covered all that stuff. So there's always real play versus, role play, and there's a difference, right? Sometimes we can role play and sometimes we can real play, and the difference is are you out there also practicing on your clients, or are you willing to practice with each other, which I think is more challenging, because I think that in the industry we kind of know more or less what we should be saying, right? And when you can do it with each other's agents, it's only easier with the clients, in my opinion. So there is page 5 in your participant guide. There is a script that they want you guys to follow for seller leads. I don't know if you guys all have your participant guide with you right now. If you do, pull it up. If not, I can put it in the chat real quick. Let me get that. All right. Let's see here. And while I do that, how many of you guys are actually practicing your scripts and your role plays right now?
Yeah.
Are you guys doing that daily? Or at least twice, 2-3 times a week?
I just started back. I'm doing it at least once a week.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's one of those things, right?
Couple of times a week, but it really helps. Even a little bit helps a lot.
It really does. I used to, one of the things that I used to really like to do was find a script partner or role play partner, and 9 o'clock hits and it wasn't even a question. It was every morning, and it didn't take us more than like five minutes, 2.5 minutes each, and we would just start the call. He would call me or I'd call him, and we'd go down the line, and that was it. Once 5 minutes were done, we just clicked, hung up. We didn't need to chit chat. We didn't need to do anything. We knew that time was just to get warmed up, right? And it's funny, once you start just doing 5 minutes a day, even, right, with another person, you'll be surprised on how much better your conversations will flow, because you're in it every day, and those questions become easier, and they become second nature. And then all of a sudden, like, you're going around and you're having conversations and you're not even thinking about it. The words are just coming out when the opportunities come. And that's where you want to be, because you want to be available. You want to be available to where the clients are, right? Or the conversation you're having with that person, not so much what you're going to say next. So I think that's super cool to do. So if you guys don't have anyone like that, find somebody. And because the idea here is, doing it once or twice a week is great, but doing it every morning for 5 minutes might just end up being more effective than, trying to do it once or twice a week for 20 or 30. I'm just saying, give it a shot, right? Okay, let's see here, participant guide, find seller leads. All right. So let's see what this looks like for you guys. All right, so seller actually connecting questions is what we went over for page 5. So we won't need that for this. So with that said, I think what they want us to do here is for you guys to actually start calling some people. So why don't we, I want to find a script though for you guys really quick. And then I want to give you guys 5 minutes to go ahead and just call. Your participant guide's pretty short today, so it's not much, but let me go ahead and share a screen. I do have the script guide here. This is where things would be easier. If you're just like already in front of me, I would be able to just hand people what I need versus going in different files and pulling different things up for you. All right, here we go. So if you guys don't know, you do have an Ignite toolkit. Your Ignite toolkit pretty much has all these things in it. You got a 66-day challenge, buyer lead sheet. You got an Ignite script book here. Okay, I have it up already. So let's go here. I think this was. So you got a Spark script book. You could go to your KW, go to education, and then you can find this stuff. But this script book has different lead gen scripts. And let's go ahead and just find one.
Eddie,
Yeah.
can you also find the you mentioned about the pre-listing material that we need to send them when we talk to someone? Is it in there as well?
Yeah.
find that.
exactly that. I'm going to share that with you. That's right here.
I'm
So
sorry.
this is what we call, we're moving in, we'll be going into that next.
Oh.
So you do have a pre-listing questionnaire. This is something that you use obviously before you go on the listing appointment, which is extremely helpful. But for now, let's go ahead. I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if you guys can share this, but you know, let's just go over one script together. Let's go for calling for referrals. Who would like to? We could do this together. I don't want to make it a big thing, but I do just want to expose it so you guys just hear it. Who wants to read at least the first paragraph here? Let me whoops,
Oops.
my bad. All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rosie Garcia. Oh, hi, Louis. My name is Rosie Garcia with Keller Williams Realty. Your name was given to me by a close friend of both of us, both of ours. Yeah, what your contact name? Oh,
Luis.
Louis. Oh, okay, Louis.
Yes.
And he said that I should. Oh, and he said that I should give you a call. Is right now a good time to talk for a couple of minutes? Excellent. I'm sorry.
No worries. New scripts have a different language pattern, and it's usually, and this is why we script, right? Because you'll find that it's not even about like anything else other than your language pattern is different than this, right? And scripts are effective in many ways because people study, whether it's through NL, you know, neuro-linguistic programming, or learning how to use, you know, open-ended, close-ended questions. There's tie downs, there's all kinds of different things that occur in a script. And oftentimes, if you're not scripting all the time, or it's a new script for you, it's essentially a new language pattern. So it always feels like you naturally want to change the words that are showing up, right? So if you're messing up, don't worry. It's just a new script that we're not familiar with. Okay. Who would like to take the next paragraph?
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
Luis said you were thinking about selling a house in 6 months, and asked if I would please give you a call. We both want to make certain that you are in great hands and that you have the very best. So that's why I'm calling.
Right. So she's bridging, you know, Luis, right? Said you were thinking about selling a house. So that sounds a little bit more powerful than like, hey, you're thinking about selling, right? Hey, I spoke to Luis. I just helped him buy, you know, sell his home. He mentioned you might be thinking the same. I know this is off script, but again, the power of like the referral and leveraging like that name, right, of someone you just helped. Thanks. All right, who wants to get the next one going?
Since everyone likes to know what houses are selling for, I'd like to share my free real estate app with you. It's easy to check what's for sale and what price and for what price on your street, in your neighborhood, or any place in the US and Canada. I can send you a text with a link. Does that sound good?
Fantastic. All right. And then if they are buying, have you seen anything you like thus far? Great. Are you working with another agent? No, that's good, right? If they're selling, when are you planning to move? When are you planning to move, right? And you know, there's different things that you do with these questions, and pausing and just asking the question really helps oftentimes too. Just like actually just allowing the question to set in and let that pause just really take its course instead of going to the next question. And have you listed your house with another agent? No, excellent, right? Then who wants to go into continue? Who wants the next step?
The next step is for us to get together. I can answer all your questions and explain how the process works. It'll only take about 20 minutes. Can we meet today or would you want me to go?
Okay, if no, thanks. I understand. Who wants to take, I understand. Anybody?
I can read it.
Okay.
All right. So I understand. I'd also like to offer a real estate update on your neighborhood or any other neighborhood you're interested in. You can customize what you receive and how often. All I need is your current address and email and you'll start receiving it right away. Do you mind sharing this information with me? Thanks.
Awesome. You can customize, right? I think it's key what you receive. People want that, right? That's why they go on these other, Zillow and these other sites. And then do me a favor.
And do me a favor, please. If you hear of someone with a real estate need, will you keep me in mind? Great. And after you downloaded the app and try it out, send me a text and let me know how you like it. I'd appreciate that. Thank you for your time today, and please let me know if there's anything I can ever do for you. So friendly.
Boom. All right. So, we just went through this. It's not bad, right? You can make it your own. You read it a couple times, it honestly starts to feel a lot more natural. I know initially it's got that, but at the end of the day, I think that there's, it's a referral script, right? So there you have it. You have one. If you're helping any clients buying or selling, use these scripts. I think again, referrals are just key. Stick with them. They're awesome. And then you have the tools to do it, right? So here, I guess they want us to let's see here, qualify seller for participants with the participant in the process asking the question determine motivation. Say, what are you showing? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. So let me see here. How many of us are in the chat right now? We have 11. I think we did this together. I don't want to do the whole breakout room thing. It takes up too much time. We'll keep it moving. We kind of did it all anyway. All right. Let me go ahead and get us back on our PowerPoint slides here. All right, convert leads to contacts, right? So finding leads motivation is your first step in terms of warming up a lead into a closed client, right? You want to have, the step of, like, again, going back to their motivation. The reason why we ask the questions in the beginning is to slowly but surely get to the motivating questions, right? The questions that get them to why they really want to make the move. And like I said earlier, those are the things you reground them to. Now, when you're completing your daily lead gen activities, your goal is to convert those leads into appointments, right? You might get the appointment from the person that you called, but if not, then you might get a referral from someone that is thinking about buying or selling. So, referrals aren't always for just people that you know. You can actually get people sometimes that appreciate what you're doing just by contacting them and being of service, and they might have referrals for you. So always be sure to ask that, warm leads, cold leads, anytime that you get the opportunity. Now, creating a reciprocal relationship to how you turn a lead into a contact, right? Someone that gives you permission for you to follow up with. For a seller lead means asking, how can you connect, right, with and meet with them? So for referral, this means asking how they can connect with people that they know that might want to meet with you. Okay. When you've determined a seller, right, or a seller referral is motivated and willing and able to sell, then the appointment takes 2 steps, right? It's one, you got to ask for the business, right? When are you ready to sell, or when will you be ready to sell? And 2, will tomorrow at 3 p.m. or Friday at 1 p.m. work for you to discuss selling your home, right? So those are key questions in terms of just like asking for the appointment. So again, when will you be ready to sell? And then you go with an option close, such as, will today at 3 or tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 1 work best for you, right? And that's really where you can get where you need to go. Other questions, what other questions do you think you can fit into the who, what, where, why, and how line when questioning this, right? So your participant guide gave us those questions. Are there anything else where, when it comes down to like who, what, where, when, why, and how, that you can ask when it comes down to, communicating with people? Let's go back to those questions. Is there anything outside of, what we see here? I like, over here, I'm sure other scripts have it in for you, but for me, making sure, if I would say you guys take anything away from using these questions or this format, is to go 3 levels deep and 3 more questions with this. Tell me more and what else, right, is a big one. I also think that people have considerations, and if you can ask questions like, well, if that wasn't there, or if that wasn't a problem, or if that wasn't a, whatever it is, right? If your credit wasn't, or you don't have the equity, or whatever it is, right, that they throw at you, if you can take that away, right, and say, well, if that wasn't there, like, and you were able to sell, where would you move to, right? Because people are always in consideration. So what you want to do is you want to take that consideration, right, and you want to isolate it. And when you isolate it, you give them the freedom and the space to put that aside, and then really start opening up to like what they would do, and if they can, and whatever else. And keep in mind, guys, they don't know that you got options for them to help them with things that they think are like huge mountains to climb, that you probably can really help them with, right? So, those are things that you want to look for in this process. But let's move on here to the next piece. So, and then ask for the referral, right? We went over a referral script. Just ask, people don't know. I think referrals, again, they can go a long way for you. And then ask for them to reciprocate the connection you've made, right? So just get people to, to just engage with you. And when you come from contribution, you'll be surprised in how you can get, these reciprocating relationships to work for you. Sometimes, it could be a service for a service. Sometimes it's a client for a client, whatever it is, right? Just build relationships with people. At the end of the day, that's what matters most. All right, so now we're going to go into understanding the seller's motivation, right? And then obviously we're going to look at position yourself as the expert, win the listing, allow you to price the home to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time frame, and then properly set the seller's expectation, allowing you to create a great customer experience. Okay. To make best use of your time, you must be willing to pre-qualify sellers, guys. Rather than expecting like each seller to or lead to just become an appointment, you want to explain, you want to have the benefits listed, right? That well, let me just rephrase that. You want to have the right questions to ask to make sure you're kind of just not wasting your time. And the best way to do that is, if you go in your toolbox Again, you can pull out the pre-listing questions, but in my case here, I do have it for you. Let me pull it up. Okay. And the pre-listing questionnaire is extremely important in the sense that you could be going on appointments and not doing this, and you could be wasting your time over and over and over again until you kind of understand why this is important. And one of the things I used to do is find another agent or my assistant to call, because if I was the initial contact, then there's a relationship already established there. But if I gave my assistant the opportunity to call and say, hey, give this person a call, you know, we set up a date for, you know, Friday at 3 p.m. But you know, I talked to them, we had a good conversation. But again, I just want to make sure that some of these things are dialed in. Go ahead and give them a call. So they'll give them a call, and oftentimes those people will be more willing to tell your assistant or the other agent something that they don't know, really how they feel about some of the questions that's being asked. Maybe you asked some of them, but not all of them, right? Because your job is not also to just like negotiate anything really on the phone. Like our primary reason for getting on the phones is to set the appointment. So we do ask questions and we establish the relationship, and we do have that reciprocating two-way communication going. But at the same time, you know, why we go on the listing presentations is one, to obviously get the business, and two, to show them our value proposition, and three, to obviously get like at the end of the day, we want to get the business. But we could do that without a pre-listing, without pre-qualifying the seller, but oftentimes we just might end up on a lot of dead-end roads. In this case, you had somebody call that'd be more open to actually answering these questions more candidly. And I think when you have that, you'll be better prepared when you're walking into those listing presentations, right? So here you would, you know, it's also a pre-listing lead sheet, which is cool. You'll have basic info here. Again, this is a PDF available in your toolkit. And you know, do you have 5 minutes so I can ask you some very important questions before I come out to meet you, right? Or before Eddie comes out to meet you, right? Whatever you got to do to change that question, if your assistant's calling or another agent. And then, you know, you could, so how did you hear about, you know, Eddie and blah, blah, blah. Oh, great. Okay, so where are you moving? You know, well, you know, we did talk about moving to Seal Beach and Huntington Beach. Okay, great. And what's, you know, what's motivating for you to move there, whatever else. Oh, you know, I'll be closer to my grandkids, closer to the water, and I want to downsize. Fantastic. You know, if we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? If yes, what would that problem be? Right. So right now we're asking, you know, what are the issues? What are the objections? What might come up that doesn't work for them to sell in the next 30 days, right? And then what would happen if your home did not sell, right? And again, that gets back to motivation. Like, do they have to sell, right? Or do they just want to sell? Okay. Now, how much do you want to list your home for? Why is that a good question?
Manages expectations.
Managing expectations, right? Everybody thinks they got the best house on the block once you get out in the field long enough, trust me. So you want to gauge what they feel, because if you come in there and you don't know that question and you start giving them some numbers, things can get really interesting really quick. And then how do you, you know, like, how much do you want to list your home for? So, you know, we asked that. And how much do you owe on the property? That's another great question, right? Another question I like to ask is, do you need to sell to buy, right? I want to know if I have somebody that's, you know, that actually, you know, needs to, or would you be paying cash? You know, you want to find out where that really is in the conversation, because, you know, there's that opportunity to help on the buy side too, of course. And then how much do you owe on the property? So we said that. I'll be sending you a packet of information. Will you take a few minutes to look at it before we meet? Do you have any questions before we meet? And then will all the decision makers be there when we meet? I think that's key. you definitely want to meet with all the decision makers. There's nothing worse than doing a listing presentation, having to come back and redo it because somebody key's not there. So you always want to do that. Make sure you ask that question. And then just so you know, our meeting will take about an hour and 20 minutes. Okay. I look forward to meeting you Friday at 3. So, I mean, I just kind of really blazed through that. And I wanted to just go through it so you guys see how important these questions are, because when you have the initial conversation and then you have them on whatever system, maybe you're texting them after you meet, thank you for meeting with me and giving me the time. I appreciate you. Looking forward to helping you. And then you can send them an email, right? And then you can follow up with another text. Hey, someone from my office is going to be contacting you, just to ask you a couple questions before we meet. All these at the end of the day are what? They're touches, right? So you're creating and you're solidifying the relationship, and this is just another touch. And the best part about this one is you're going to find out really where their motivation really stands and where they're really at in terms of making a move. And then you follow this up with sending a pre-listing packet, which people do in all kinds of different ways, right? Some people have, a pre-listing packet from Keller Williams. You might be part of a team. You might have your own. They take a small gift. They get it FedExed. Somebody drops it off. They use a carrier service. Some put them in these boxes and it looks all fancy because they want it to sit there. And that pre-listing package also has stats and stuff like that about you that you probably, some people don't mind covering stats in their listing presentations. Other people just don't want to do that. They rather just give them that, see if they actually look at it. So you're building credibility with that. And then there's also questions in the pre-listing packet, much like the pre-qualifying questions we used here, that they can take and actually have in their hand and answer, so that by the time you meet with them, you have a better idea of what their concerns are, what their questions might be, and overall just expectations, right? Because at the end of the day, our business is to manage expectations. And the more information we can get prior to getting to that table for a listing appointment, the better shot we have in actually making sure we win that business, right? Because
Eddie, can I
yeah.
ask a question? So I have 2 questions. So in your opinion, as a listing agent, what's best, that someone else ask this pre-listing questions or yourself?
I like to have somebody else, because again, if I've been the point of contact the whole time, there might be some things that I'm not going to say they're intimidated to ask, but not want to go into that kind of conversation yet, right? I do think they'll be more willing to tell, if somebody that they don't know, but that's part of your team or group, or establishes themselves as part of your team or group, for the sake of asking the questions, I think they'll be more candid with giving them more of the truth and telling you, if you've communicated with them enough times, that there might be just some things that they're not willing to say that they would be willing to tell somebody part of your team that they haven't met or known, right? And to me, I think that's more effective. But if you don't have someone to do that, then by all means, you make sure you do it yourself. It's okay to do either or. But I do think that it kind of gives you that separation, like, oh wow. It also makes you, changes the perception a little bit, like, oh wow, this guy has a team, or they got a team where they're working with, a group of people are going to be working with me to sell my home, and they're asking these questions. So it just kind of helps the overall process, and it makes it look a lot more legit, in my opinion, right? To have that, to be backed up by other people. But yeah, is there any questions around this? And if you guys want it again, it's in your Ignite toolkit. You can find it.
Question I have, if I may.
Sure.
The pre-listing packet is basically whatever you want to put in there, or is it certain things that you have to have in there?
So there's a template pre-listing packet that you guys can get. You could put things like samples of the kind of photos you take, like a flyer of that, what you do to get home sold, a seller checklist, which I think is already built in there, honestly. Some people like have a plant that they send with it. It's really up to you. Even if you just send a packet with stats, your basic value proposition, my team is right, and have like all your people in your team. And if you don't have a team, your team could be your team leader, it could be your escrow officer, it could be your title person, it could be your lender, it could be all these people, your transaction coordinator. So you can make it look like it's not you, that you're working with a team, and you introduce those people in that pre-listing packet. You can have, market stats in the neighborhood. There's been 20 homes that sold in the past, 60 days in your neighborhood. The average sales price is XYZ. It's just information that if they actually take a look at, you're just kind of already subconsciously placing specifics in their mind and things to go over and talk about, and it pulls more questions out of them for you to discuss when you get to meet with them. And you're obviously going to be prepared and ready to answer them anyway, because you have that information. But it just gives them a feeling of that they're part of the conversation, and that they're being consulted with, and not so much being sold as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Hey, I'll tell you, it's one of those things where you're like, man, this is a lot of work, But once you get a system going and you're not reinventing the wheel, it's not as bad. And don't start big when it comes to stuff like that. Just, start with at least doing the pre-listing questionnaire yourself, or getting somebody to do it. And then, once you establish that, then just start with like a basic packet template that you can FedEx, for your pre-listing package. And as things evolve, you can get fancy with some boxes and plants and whatever else. Sometimes it makes sense. I mean, you want to have something that you leave that they're going to put on their table, and is going to remind them of you all the way up until the point you meet with them, right? So that's the point of doing that stuff. And what would people keep on their dining table? Probably that plant that, or whatever that you sent to them, right? And it just acts as a reminder subconsciously for them in their home, while you're not even there conversating with them, that you're probably going to be sitting at that very table discussing that very plant and whatever else came with it, right? So a lot of it's there to just kind of, get in the home before you get in the home, I guess, is the best way to go about it.
I just thought about something.
Yeah.
Because we are all practically new at this.
Mhm.
If you don't have a team, you can ask another real estate agent to help you do those pre-listing questions.
Yeah,
Right? And then you do the favor back to that person.
absolutely. Yep. I started doing it that way before I had my assistant. Now my assistant does it, but absolutely.
So I can do it for any of you guys.
Yeah. Is this helping you guys any? I mean,
Yeah.
this is what sets the guys that are out there doing big numbers. They just have the resources, right? And they have the time to do these, right? And as newer agents, you have the time to do it too. It just, takes the initial effort in the beginning to just get it put together. Once you do, it can get pretty efficient. It's not that bad. But this is part of your value proposition. This does set you apart from the guy that just shows up with a CMA and has a discussion and leaves, right? Because there's a lot of those guys out there. All right, let's go back to sharing our screen here. All right, we went over that. All right, so we kind of went over that. And then next up is your listing presentation. So I'll be honest, I think today's class is going to be a little shorter because a lot of these next slides and everything they want us to do is command related, which I don't think everybody's on. And a lot of it's actually, you know, like setting up and doing and like actually, you know, like inputting your information in your pre-listing template and all that other stuff. We're not going to do that here today because I'm assuming, you know, you guys have yours. Or you guys can download it and do it on your, you know, at your time, unless you guys want to do that. You can download it. I could put the template up for you and you can go from there. But they are asking us in this section here, and I know our last class, majority of people said they're not using command. Unless anybody, I mean, let me just ask again, how many of us here are using command right now in this group? Because that was different from last week. We
I
have
am.
I am.
So how many people got? 3 people using command? Okay, good. All right, so here's what I'll do. I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And then if you guys go to your command, okay, you can go to designs and create new. And when you do that, it's going to give you a whole bunch of templates. Okay, let me go back in here. I'll just start it from the beginning for you guys to see. What is it? Console. All right, so I don't use command. I'm transitioning, but if you go into this bottom left side here, second from the bottom, you can go to or third. It's called designs. You can click on it, and once you're in there, you can go create one, and your designs will appear. In this case, I would just say print. And go to next, and then it moves you to your workspace. So this is all built in command. Are you guys, oh no, you're not even seeing this. Hold on.
We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, you guys see it? Okay, great. All right, so you guys, and then if you go to listings, you can go to listing presentation and you can click on it. And in here, it has your listing presentation. So you've got modern 1, you've got classic, you've got approachable, you've got classic 2, you've got modern 2, and then you can go to use. And here it is. So this is your listing presentation template, right? Essentially, you could go in here, you can add some information, you can edit this stuff. It's pretty cool. Command does have some pretty cool features. You got some stuff in here like your instructions. You can make, you know, a little front cover, a custom thing for your client. Maybe go on Facebook, get their picture, right? Do something with that. Put your base.
Is this for individual client or is it your general listing presentation?
This is your general presentation, right? If you're doing it digitally though, it wouldn't be hard for you to input your client's name in here, right? If you wanted, you don't have to, you can keep it pretty generic. But if you wanted to, and then, you know, if you're doing it on Zoom, you can, you know, obviously input all your information in here and go from there. So, I mean, that's why I said, like, we technically could, if everybody wanted to log in command right now, but not everybody uses it, go in and do this. So that's why I figured some of you might already have your listing presentation. If not, you want to do this and you're using command, this is the way to do it. But you can add your logo in here. From your logo, you got icons, you got different images you could put, and then Once you're done creating this template once, then that's it. You don't have to do it again. You just update the client's name, and then you could download it. And when you're in Zoom, you can digitally present it, or you could print it as a PDF and, obviously take that with you if you're meeting face to face. I'll tell you that there is a demographic out there, that are older, that, might still want to see things on paper. So know who's sitting across from you. If it's a millennial, they probably would prefer to see this digitally. If it's somebody that's, in their 60s, they're probably used to paper. You can hand them that, you know what I mean? Give them a copy in paper form. They probably like to see that. So just a heads up. But this is kind of cool because it's almost like your own Canva is built in here. And let's just go through this together. So you can put your property, your transaction timeline, your custom marketing plan. This kind of, it's like a key showing you what's in here, representing your home. And then, you can put the property in here. Your home is 10% larger than the average property, sold in Barton Hills. You could do all that stuff. You don't have to keep these pages. You could demonstrate, what some of these numbers are showing up as, in terms of, using neighborhoods and stuff like that through the app the command provides. Let's see. You can put some comps in here. Your needs come first, right? You can discuss just giving them scenarios and stuff like that. The process, I think this page is super cool, right? Initial meeting, walk through the needs analysis, sign a listing agreement. So now you're kind of giving them an idea of like what to expect from start to close, because people don't know the process, right? And it can get complicated for them. So this is a great way to kind of just give people like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do photography, we're going to bring in the drones. We're going to launch a coming soon campaign. We're going to establish a competitive price and all these other things. So that just kind of gives them like, okay, so we actually have a plan here, right? And it puts them at ease because now they know what to expect. You bring in your piece. What do you do for custom marketing? Finding your buyer, right? The internet's the largest way people find buyers for your home. A real estate agent second, then obviously garden assign, friends, relatives, neighbors, so on and so on. Best in class promotional assets. I mean, smart targeting network. You can, take that, run with it, show them what your media plan is. Maybe you're gonna do 500 postcards and they're, to their closest neighbors. Make sure you do a geofencing on Facebook, promote it via Instagram stories, right? Then you have another checklist here on what it looks like to do your coming soon campaign, your just listed campaign. You're going to break down an open house strategy, right? It's in the details, right? You're going to show that your, high quality photos are great. And it's a must these days because the internet's such a huge way of marketing your home. We need to have great pictures. Matterport videography allows people to walk through the property. Mass mobile marketing, you'll be texting. You're going to be, you and your team will be door knocking 250 of the closest neighbors. Your listing is amplified by, us partnering with and syndicating your property in all the websites that they would be familiar with. I know we don't want to promote them, but people like, this is going to show up on Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, all those guys, along with obviously the MLS and our own KW listing service, stuff like that. You could put down your expertise, right? If you're a newer client, you can put some of your market center stats in this here, right? the proof is in the numbers. See, a lot of these things are great, but the reality is you're more likely going to go into your MLS, probably do a cloud CMA that populates all this for you instead of putting all this in there. But if you have the resources and your presentation and your report comes out looking like this and with these details in it, I mean, it's a nice little setup, right? Leading the industry. So this talks a little bit about Keller Williams. We have 180,000 plus associates. What is this? Featured listings, a promise. You might have your own value proposition, selling safely, the bottom line, right? And then you have the back cover. So with your little app URL on there. So this is all built in here, guys. Like, this is just one of the other 5 examples they give you, and this is all just built into Command. So take the time, if you haven't set one up yet, to just go ahead and populate your own basic info. Okay. The classic stuff might have a lot less of the customizable things in there, where you don't have to change so much stats and stuff like that, right? Is there any questions about this? Let's see what the listing presentation template, let's see what this one looks like. Just want to show you guys the different ones you might have. Okay. Pretty much the same, actually, just looks different fonts and stuff. But still, so that's available to you. Take advantage of it. There's a lot of other things that's also in this. That's you know, not just your listing presentation. You've got postcards. You've got all kinds of things you can do here. Let me see if they have something here. Local expert, neighborhood snaps, open house, price update, under contract. My website. So you got business cards in here too, right? You want to create your business cards. That's built in here. That's super cool. Email signatures. If you don't have one set up, you got some in here. You just go in, click, use. You can start editing. A letterhead, right? Maybe you're sending offers for your buyers and your clients, right? And you want to make it look a little more official and professional. Or your cover letter for your pre-listing packet. You can utilize something like this. If you have your own logo, you can change that KW to your own logo as well, and it saves it in here. So you got a lot of options in here. You got everything you need essentially. All it takes is for you guys to go in and update your information.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yep. Trying to see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, all these little pre-templates for your coming soons. I mean, this stuff is all gold here. Yep. If you go to My Designs, I think I used this for a few things before. Yeah, I had a flip. So this is my flip from last year. I don't know, I just made a social media post or postcard, put this on social media, just kind of created this little thing here. So, I mean, it's cool, right? Like this is what it looks like with my stuff on it, right? Not the KW stuff. The cool thing is I can just go in here and I can change things. right? I can make this where I want it. I can move it where I want it. I can just upload photos, dump it in here, and it's saved in here. I don't have to go to some other platform to do it and create it, then upload it and move it from here to there. So again, like Command is a beast of I can't even call it a CRM because it's not just that. They just got to stabilize it. Once it's stabilized, I mean, it's really going to be a one-stop shop for your business. And I think that's what we need because we're all in so many different platforms these days. And information always needs to get transferred from one thing to the next. And yeah, there's automation and integration, but like, you know, that sometimes also just like a whole separate job in itself, right? Cool. So let's go ahead and go back to our slides here. And the rest of it was, you know, obviously take your time, guys, create your listing presentation, practice it, practice the pre-qualifying questionnaire. I think if you know, sit with somebody, a colleague or someone, and just go over that, find you that person that's going to make those calls for you when you need them. Take it and run with it. And then obviously make sure you guys are on top of your scripts for, you know, for seller questions or referral questions. I think you want to run with that. And then just wrap it up by doing all these things in the macro level, on the grand scheme of things. What you're doing is you're just creating more touches. The more you are essentially communicating and connecting with the client and having real purpose behind the communication, all the way up until you get to that table, really changes the game here, because you've got questions being asked, you've got pre-listing packets going out, you've got, and that's besides maybe your 8x8 to solidify the question. Thank you. And to solidify the relationship, right? So remember, the 8x8 campaigns is 8 touches in 8 weeks. And then while you have that going on, you do have these extra pieces that's very purposeful in communicating with them. So just think about that. You know, that's what bulletproofs your plan. That's what saves you time. So you might think that this stuff takes more time, more energy. Once you set it up, it actually doesn't take much more time at all. But what is a waste of time is going haphazardly to these appointments or these listing presentations without creating, you know, without asking those key questions, and really, you know, not getting to the motivation and not getting to those pre-listing qualified questions. That the waste of time really ends up being when you show up and they're just not ready, right? And at that point, it's like, why go on, right? You get up, you get ready, you do your CMA, you do your market stats, you do all this research, you send them you send them all this information, and you're communicating with them. But if you're not getting the key questions in that process, it really, really can end up being frustrating, where you're just kind of constantly going on listing appointments and not converting, right? Because you're probably not asking the right questions to see if you even need to be on that table yet or not. Oftentimes we do also, the psychology behind this is we like to psych ourselves into they do need to sit, or they do want to sell, or they do want to like sit with us. You know, we can get really good with getting people to sit with us sometimes for the sake of sitting with us, but we're missing all these pieces that would make the difference of really knowing whether we're sitting with someone who's serious or not. And then, you know, just one of those questions out of that, the pre-listing questionnaire goes a long way. What do you think your home's worth? Sometimes you got people that do want to sell, and guess what? They're just not being realistic, right? And you'll know from asking all the other questions whether you're talking to someone that's being realistic, that does need to sell, because sometimes people do need to sell and they're not being realistic. And then sometimes you'll be able to identify that, you know, they need to sell and they're not being realistic, but they're open to actually like hearing you out and why that is. So throughout the process of going through this, you really start to sift through these sellers in a way that you can really set yourself up for success when you meet with them and sit on that table. But yeah, other than that, what are some of your guys' ahas? Sorry, I know I go on tangents sometimes, but I can't help it. I feel like everybody's like,
Eddie, I appreciate the opportunity to learn about this. I'm still relatively new. I'm not yet licensed, but we've talked so much about get the appointment, and to stage ourselves for success for that appointment is really good to start to put some clarity on that.
yeah, they're gonna feel like they know you and you know them before you even get to sit on the table. And that's what you want. You want that relationship established, and this is how you do it.
Thank
Yep. By the time you're done with those questions and you get to motivation, I mean, the grandkids, the downsizing, I mean, there's a whole lot there. We can spend an hour just talking about those two items, right? When it comes down to just like getting to the motivation and establishing the relationship part, right? So absolutely. Any other ahas? All right. We're going to wrap it up here today then, guys and gals. Again, your toolkit has all this information in it. KW Command has a lot of your, does have your pre-listing templates or your template, your listing presentation template ready to go. Make sure you take your time to update that. Find somebody to help you script and role play. Even if you do the 5-minute thing daily, I think you'll be surprised on how that can create some momentum for you. And go out there and make it happen. And if you guys need any help or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or your Market Center productivity coach or your team leader. We're here to be a resource for you always. Cool.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You.
You.